We're about to go on a dark and disturbing journey, a tragic tale that starts and ends in the suburbs of the infamous western Pennsylvania city of Pittsburgh. Just after 6 p.m. on April 5th, 2018, Pittsburgh 911 received a call from a woman who claimed that her 17-month-old baby was unresponsive and turning blue in the face. Emergency services responded almost immediately, rushing to the scene where they would encounter the mother, Jhenea Pratt, at the front of the apartment building. Jhenea would lead paramedics and police officers to her apartment and to her unresponsive daughter, Charlotte Napper-Talley. First responders noted that as soon as they entered, there was an overwhelming odor of recently burnt marijuana, but as expected, there were more concerning matters at hand. Police and paramedics entered Charlotte's bedroom where they found her laying on her bed next to a pink sippy cup, but she was completely unresponsive. She had no pulse and she wasn't breathing, and there was also red liquid coming out of her nose and mouth. The situation was understandably dire, but the circumstances around the situation were odd, to say the least. Even when taking into account that Jhenea was a mother whose child was experiencing a severe medical emergency, and that Jhenea was most likely still at least slightly intoxicated from recently smoking marijuana, she seemed to have little to no concern about Charlotte, and was more concerned about a coffee table being broken in the course of resuscitation attempts on Charlotte, and was verbally expressive about not wanting to get in trouble with police. Baby Charlotte was rushed to the hospital, and emergency room personnel worked tirelessly to save her life. But sadly, Charlotte died later that night. Since there were no external injuries or signs of abuse visible on Charlotte's body, Jhenea was free to go while medical examiners continued their evaluation of Charlotte. The results of the forensic analysis would later indicate that Charlotte suffered from a massive overdose of fentanyl. Toxicology results showed that Charlotte had over 1,100 nanograms of fentanyl in her blood, over 1,000 times the lethal amount for adults. And further investigation showed that lethal amounts of fentanyl were still inside the sippy cup that was found in her crib. After discovering the results and pondering on Jhenea's behavior to and around first responders, detectives brought her into the station to not only notify her of the toxicology report, but to also ask some very important questions. This is the interrogation of Jhenea Pratt.
Where did she fall asleep in her bedroom?
She came and got up on the couch with me.
Mm-hmm.
This is Jhenea Pratt, the mother of Charlotte Napper-Talley, the 17-month-old baby girl that passed away from a massive overdose of fentanyl. Although the publicly available interrogation footage starts a few minutes into the questioning process, assuming that Jhenea's demeanor in the unseen footage was similar wouldn't be out of character, as we'll soon see. Jhenea calmly and casually puffs on a cigarette, answering detectives' questions with the bare minimum amount of detail. Her attitude is sinister and standoffish, and is anything but helpful to investigators. To any rational person, this is extremely abnormal, considering that this is a case where a mother's child has died under suspicious circumstances. To frame the timeline accordingly, at this point in the overall investigation, police are aware of Charlotte's extremely concerning toxicology results, while Jhenea is seemingly unaware. Right now, they need to know how and why the fentanyl ended in her cup, as well as who put it there.
You guys took a nap?
We barely fell asleep. By the time I was actually, dozing off, Miss Vernon was knocking at the door.
Okay, and at that time you put her in her bedroom? Or left her on the couch?
At this time, I had picked her up because she was laying with me on the couch. I'm not sure if she was on top of me or beside me at that point.
Yeah.
I picked her up and I laid her on the couch. And I opened the door and I came to get her off the couch and I put her in her bed.
Okay. Did she eat or drink anything?
My boyfriend told me he made fish sticks and I want to say like French fries or something.
Okay. Now, that was earlier in the day when you guys got back. Did she eat or drink anything?
No, she didn't eat or drink anything. She had left her He said she didn't want her sippy cup before they walked out the door to come and get me. So he left the sippy cup there.
Which
When she
sippy
got-
cup was that?
To my knowledge, it should have been the pink one.
The pink sippy cup?
hmm
And where was that located?
I'm not even sure. I wasn't there.
Did he have that or did she have it?
It was left.
It was left there.
She didn't want it on the way out the door.
Okay. When you say on the way out the door, you mean?
When they left to come and
To
get
come-
me from
okay.
school.
Okay, when you came back, did she, that pink sippy cup, do you remember
I
where
didn't
it
even
was?
see the sippy cup.
Did you give her the sippy cup at all?
I didn't see the sippy cup.
Okay. Do you remember it being in her bedroom? That sippy cup?
I think I might have found the sippy cup on the way to, I'm not sure. I just remember, I believe, putting the sippy cup in her bed with her.
Okay. Did you put anything in the sippy cup?
No, there was a red liquid in it, and I know we had Huggies. around
Yeah, I
the
remember
time.
seeing some Huggies in there.
To be more specific, Happy Drink Huggies.
Is that what they're called?
hmm
Okay. Did you, when you were living, I'm just going to show you the picture. This is, is this the same sippy cup you're thinking of?
hmm
Now, did you have put liquid in there earlier in the day?
Yes.
You did?
hmm
Okay. Was that the same sippy cup that you put the liquid in? Was it before you went to school, when you got home from school, or?
I put a different juice drink in there, and she had a complete fit, and she didn't drink it.
Okay.
So how the red liquid got in, he changed her sippy cup when he fed her.
Okay.
He said she drank a little bit and threw it.
Okay. Out of that sippy cup.
Mhm.
Okay.
The origin of the red liquid is key to the investigation because the remnants inside of Charlotte's cup contained enough fentanyl to kill multiple adult humans. Jhenea says that her boyfriend at the time, Albert Williams, put the juice in the cup and that Charlotte already had the cup and the juice by the time she came home from school. She says that Charlotte drank a little bit and then threw the cup after Albert gave her that red juice, inferring that he was the last person to have put anything into the cup. Given the vast amount of fentanyl found in the cup and inside Charlotte's blood, this statement is patently false. Fentanyl, when ingested orally, is fast-acting, needing as little as 15 minutes to take effect in an adult and significantly less in a toddler. Albert Williams, also known as Napper-Talley, would be another recipient of Jhenea's completely psychotic behavior. Throughout the course of the investigation, Jhenea would insinuate that Albert was involved, but never directly implicating him. After Charlotte's passing, Albert's life as he knew it would disintegrate rapidly. At the end of this video, we will learn of Albert's fate as well.
When you lived at that address, did you get anything delivered in the mail from overseas?
I had just ordered her entire room from Walmart. I don't know if that came from overseas or not.
Well, Walmart won it. I'm saying, like, did you order anything that maybe that might not have, that might have been out of the ordinary? Any type of anything from a different country?
No, my mother purchased the baby gate that was in her room.
Okay.
I believe she purchased that from Walmart also.
There would be no reason like you would get any packages, say, from China or from Japan or anything like that.
Like directly from them?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay. But to your knowledge, you.
I ordered everything from Walmart.
Okay.
The Pittsburgh region is among the hardest hit by the growing epidemic of opioid use. Fentanyl is often used as either an enhancement or used with cutting agents as a replacement for traditional black market opioids. Fentanyl's strength by weight makes successful smuggling operations very enticing to drug traffickers down to street-level dealers alike. Since 2013, China has been the principal source for the fentanyl flooding the U.S. illicit drug market. or of the precursor agents from which fentanyl is produced, often in Mexico, fueling the deadliest drug epidemic in US history. If someone, either Jhenea, Albert, or someone else, was trafficking packages of fentanyl from overseas and they were in or around the apartment around the time of Charlotte's death, it could give clues as to who put it in her cup and how it got there. Remember, Jhenea is speaking to homicide detectives, and their focus is on finding out who was responsible for Charlotte's death. If they discovered someone was selling or trafficking fentanyl, it would undoubtedly be investigated, but right now, their focus is on Charlotte's case.
So just to be clear, the stuff that was in that sippy cup, you did put in or you did not?
I did not.
Okay. Okay. Do you have any idea, well, I'm just gonna be blunt to you. Your child died from fentanyl poisoning.
So why did CYF tell me hypoxic cardiac arrest?
There weren't lab results then. So I'm going to explain this to you, okay?
This is the first time the medical examiner's results are being presented to Jhenea. Her reaction to hearing the cause of her daughter's death is cold and callous. Her immediate question is, why did they tell me hypoxia cardiac arrest? Not shock, not anger, not sadness. Her only question is why the examiner gave her Charlotte's manner of death, and the detective says that there wasn't lab results then. While this is factually true, both Jhenea and the interrogator are speaking on two different levels. Hypoxia is a condition in which the body or a region of the body is deprived of adequate oxygen supply at the tissue level, and in Charlotte's case, this was caused by cardiac arrest. She died from hypoxia as a result of cardiac arrest. This is specifically her manner of death. Her cause of death was the massive overdose of fentanyl. The cause of death is the injury or disease that leads to death, and the manner of death is the determination of how the injury or disease leads to death.
In that sippy cup was fentanyl. In her blood was fentanyl. We just got these results back. It's the same type of fentanyl that people are overdosing every day in Pittsburgh and dying from. Same exact type. Okay. So I need to know how the fentanyl got in the sippy cup. Because right now it's not an accident. Okay. All right, so scientifically, it's impossible for your daughter to put fentanyl in a sippy cup. Okay. Physically, it's impossible for her to do. Scientifically, that's another story. But right now, that's how she died. It wasn't a heart attack. It wasn't any other reason other than she overdosed on fentanyl, which is the same fentanyl that people in the streets are dying on every single day. How'd the fentanyl get in the sippy cup, Jhenea?
Just straight fentanyl?
Yeah.
So what is it, like a liquid,
I'm not a scientist. It comes in a liquid form, it comes in a powder form. I'm not exactly sure, but what I am sure of is that fentanyl was put in a sippy cup and there was liquid mixed into it and it was given to Charlotte, and that's how she died.
The detective is doing everything except for directly implicating Jhenea. The detective's tone, demeanor, body language, intonation, everything about his verbal and nonverbal gestures are accusatory. Jhenea plays ignorant, asking what state of matter fentanyl exists in, trying to deflect the obvious direction that the conversation is going. The detective completely dismisses the question and brings focus back to the source of the fentanyl. Jhenea assumes a defensive position immediately, crossing her arms and pulling back from the table. In an interrogation setting, suspects crossing their arms in front of their chests serves two main purposes. One, to provide comfort to themselves, and two, to provide a barrier between them and investigators. Often, but not always, this could also indicate that the suspect is pulling back on their willingness to talk. When the arms cross position is accompanied by a slight tilt or a twist of the body such that the right side of the body is not a mirror image of the left side, it shows that the person is feeling dominant, They may also lean slightly backwards as they take this position, all of which Jhenea does. While Jhenea might be the person under the metaphorical microscope in this situation, she is calm, collected, and emotionless. She is actively battling for control over the conversation, just not verbally.
So I need to know how that got in there.
I have no knowledge to how fentanyl got in my daughter's sippy cup.
Okay. Because you realize right now this investigation is taking a whole different turn.
Yeah, clearly.
And when someone gives someone something and they die from it, it's a homicide. She was poisoned intentionally.
Okay, well,
Okay.
I've been making complaints to my rent office because I've been smelling a funny smell in my house several times returning back to my house.
This is since you've moved, or
No, this is living in apartment number 5.
this is where you used to live? you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that still wouldn't explain how it got in the sippy cup.
Well, I'm just as clueless as you are. So are you implicating that I put fentanyl in my child's sippy cup?
No, but based on this timeline, I mean, there's only 2 people that could have put fentanyl in the sippy cup. Based on what you just told me about 10 minutes ago. And based on the whole timeline of that day. I need to know how it got in there. Because this investigation is not going away.
Okay, and I'm telling you, I returned to my house from being picked up from school, and I did nothing out of the usual.
Okay.
We took our stuff off, and she ran around and played, and I'm waiting for my social worker to come.
Okay. Do you get fentanyl delivered from China?
I don't know anything about fentanyl.
Okay. Did you ever put anything in her sippy cup other than Huggy
No.
juice?
She's drank water, she's drank milk, she's drank Kool-Aid, liquids.
But have you ever put anything in there?
No, I have not.
Okay.
Other than,
I mean, because some parents will give their kids a little bit of, Benadryl or something like that, so they can...
no, that doesn't go in a sippy cup because it's supposed to be measured out, and Benadryl's not supposed to be drank. Tylenol's not supposed to be drank over a specific amount of hours. It's supposed to be 1 dose, and that's it.
Right, I agree with you. But parents...
I'm not one of those people
Okay.
or parents.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. And it wouldn't be the first time, okay? I'm just asking. But we have a problem right now.
When Jhenea asks if she was being accused, the detective says no, which is true, although the underlying implication is undeniable. She's been asked multiple times about the source of the fentanyl and is obviously being investigated as a suspect in the death of her child, which she is now aware is being treated as a homicide. While it isn't unheard of for a suspect to remain calm while claiming their innocence, it is far more common, by a wide margin, for a suspect to show some sort of outrage, anger, or just some sort of emotion when they're honestly proclaiming their innocence. Jhenea, however, remains nearly completely monotone, completely unforthcoming, and near statuesque.
Is that safe to say that there's a problem? I mean, I have to figure out how this got in there, because your baby can't tell me. Is there a reason someone would want to do that? Is there a reason why fentanyl would be in a sippy cup?
No, there's not. And no, there's not a reason anybody would want to.
The amount of fentanyl that was in her system was extremely high. Okay? It was very high. And that's essentially when she drank the sippy cup. Whenever she picked that sippy cup off the bed, it was absorbed very quickly. And once she swallowed it, she didn't have much time to survive.
That's not possible because I didn't physically see her with her sippy cup, and we were at home. I was with her. I'm not sure. I just remember, I believe, putting the sippy cup in her bed with her.
Okay.
I can't tell you the exact time frame, but when I got home, because I went to the welfare office a little bit as soon as I left school. There's no possible way.
Well, that sippy cup I showed you that picture of, that's the sippy cup that had it in it. Okay. I'm going to step out for a little bit, let you think about this.
There's nothing to think about.
Okay, well, I need to step out anyway. All right. But that's why I brought you here, was to tell you exactly what happened and what we found. And, I mean, it wasn't really me, but it was, scientists and, people at the lab that discovered all this, medical examiners, doctors.
Okay, so am I under arrest?
No.
Are there any more questions?
Jhenea's primary concern is still focused on anything but Charlotte. She has shown no concern, anger, sadness, or general reaction to the troubling information. She hasn't had any questions about anything except for now, when she wants to know if she's under arrest and if they had any more questions to ask her. What Jhenea doesn't know is that her callousness, while it will reward her in the short term by being nearly impenetrable by investigators, will cause long-term damage very soon. When the detective says he's going to step out and Jhenea responds that there's nothing to think about and if she's under arrest, he quickly changes course and stays in the room. If Jhenea is not under arrest, then she can leave at any point in time, ending any sort of information gathering that they've been able to accomplish. Instead, they continue to press for answers and increasing the pressure on Jhenea.
I just want to know how it got in there. That's the big question.
I don't know how it got in there. This is news to me like it's news to you.
If you had to guess how it got in there, is there any way, any guess you could have?
A manufacturing issue with the happy drinks?
So you think it could have been the Huggy?
Yes, and as a matter of fact, I took a sip of those Huggies and it didn't really have a pleasing taste to it.
We tested the Huggies.
Mm.
No fentanyl.
So what are you implying?
I'm asking. I'm just asking straight up how it got in there.
And I'm telling you straight up, I have no clue how it got in there.
No clue. Is this something your boyfriend would have done?
He has kids of his own. Why would he hurt my child?
Well, did anyone else have access to the apartment?
Maintenance people, the people who run the place.
So other than the maintenance people and people that run the place, the only person that has access to it is you and Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Was any maintenance people in there recently?
I wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know? Was anyone in your house that uses heroin?
I wouldn't know what people's personal drugs they use.
But to your knowledge,
No.
did you have any people in your house that use heroin?
No.
Do you use heroin?
No.
Does your boyfriend use heroin?
No.
Other than smoking weed, do you do any other drugs?
No.
Jhenea answers the investigators' questions with little thought, repeating no with the same static tone. Even inflammatory questions get no rise from her. Her lack of willingness to partake in even the most basic of a conversation with the detective, a conversation about how her daughter was drugged with a massive amount of fentanyl, she has no desire to partake in. Her head stays tilted with her arms crossed and is still nearly statuesque. Jhenea will not budge even a millimeter in any direction.
All right. Well, it's my job to find out how this got in there. Okay, at this point. And like, right, this isn't going to go away. This investigation is not going away until I find out. Okay.
When you find out, you let me know.
I definitely will. I
Any
definitely
further
will.
questions?
These are the words that will seal the court's and the public's perception of Jhenea. She has no interest in what's happening at all, and if anything, it seems like this is all just one big inconvenience and annoyance. This is just another day to her, and the police are doing nothing but hindering her plans for the afternoon.
I mean, you already told me she was acting fine. She wasn't sick. You guys got home, you take a nap, you fall asleep together on the couch. Social or the Urban League lady comes, you take her into her bedroom. She falls asleep in there, Urban lady leaves.
She was asleep before I put her
Oh, she
in
was still
bed.
asleep. She stayed asleep, Urban lady left. And you went to check on her, and that's when you found she was unresponsive. And there was that pink sippy cup on her bed. And you called 911. Police showed up first, and then the medics. Correct?
I don't know who showed up first, honestly.
Okay. I really want to know why your baby had that large amount of fentanyl in her.
I would too.
I mean, it was enough to kill a very large animal.
There's no way my daughter could have got into any type of fentanyl.
I agree with you. I agree. I think someone, just like a bartender, mixes up a drink, put it in that sippy cup. That's the only possible way it could have got in there.
Is there any more questions, officer, detective?
Do you agree with me?
I'm not agreeing because who would do that to a child?
That's I
There's
a
no
really
possible way any of
messed
that
up
could have
person. Really messed up person would do that.
There's no possible way.
Well, got in there somehow. And the amount of fentanyl she had could have killed probably 2 horses that was in her system. Okay.
Any more questions?
No.
Am I under arrest?
No.
Can I go?
Sure.
Not long after this interrogation, Jhenea was arrested and charged with homicide and endangering the welfare of a child. While incarcerated, she would tell fellow inmates nearly any and every version imaginable about the events of that day, such as she did it, she didn't do it, no one else could have done it, and disgustingly, she even said she, quote, didn't want a damn girl anyway. The jury trial began on May 28, 2019, and on June 4th, the jury convicted Jhenea on both counts. Shockingly, she was sentenced to only 5 to 10 years in a state prison for her crimes. As mentioned earlier, Jhenea's behavior did not go unnoticed, and it was mentioned that there would be long-term repercussions for being so heartless. Judge King would write the memorandum for the case, in which he stated, I also had the opportunity to watch the video/audio tape recording of the various statements that you made to the detectives during the course of the investigation when they were desperately trying to go find out who was responsible for your daughter's untimely and tragic death. I had the benefit of watching and listening to all of that, and no other judge that will ever be involved in this case will have that same ability. I find that any lesser sentence would diminish the seriousness of the crimes with which you have been convicted. And I find that confinement is required both to deter you and also to deter those who may be tempted to put themselves in a similar situation. I also find that if you were granted probation, there would be an undue risk during that period of probation that you would commit another crime. I am considering, in addition, the violation of the trust that you held towards your daughter. This child has no one here today to speak on her behalf except the prosecutor, who never even met her and only saw pictures of her after she was cold and dead. Charlotte Napper-Talley is essentially just a forgotten victim here, but she looked to you, and to you only, as her source of safety and protection and support. She was wholly dependent on you, and you betrayed the trust that was your responsibility to uphold. I also find, I suppose, what could be classified as an expression of remorse. But again, as I'm the one who is in the courtroom right now, and I am the judge that actually has the opportunity to witness you and observe you, I find that your showing of remorse is nothing more than a box to be checked on your list of things to do when you show up at sentencing. The interactions especially that you have with detectives, who work tirelessly and denied many other equally valid cases their expertise and time by pouring hours and hours into this particular investigation, was especially chilling. And I do not think that can translate for the Superior Court by a cold-hearted record. One would have to see it and hear it for their own selves. Most importantly, however, in my consideration of the nature and substance that took your daughter's life, Dr. Shu, an experienced forensic pathologist for nearly 11 years at the Allegheny County Medical Examiner's Office, testified that there were 1,100 nanograms of fentanyl in this poor baby's blood. And he testified that even 1.3 nanograms, that would be 1/10 of 1% of that amount, would be enough to cause death in an adult. I think the detective's characterization, and frankly yours, that there was enough fentanyl in that girl's system to kill a horse is absolutely accurate. Dr. Shu indicated that this is the highest level of fentanyl that his office has experienced in 10 years. This was a case where toxic poison was placed squarely in the way of your child and placed in an attractive nuisance. What I mean by that, a sippy cup that she had continually looked to grant her relief from thirst. But I want to make it clear that the sort of lackluster expression of remorse that you attempted to mouth piously today lies in the face of the true you that I got to see on the videos in this case, where you try to come up with just about any explanation for your daughter's death except that you were responsible for it. In fact, it's very telling that when the initial officers and the medics responded and attempted vainly to save your poor daughter's life, who was as good as dead at that point anyway, unfortunately, because the amount of fentanyl that you allowed her to ingest, your response in large part was the following words during that very stressful situation where people are most likely to express their true feelings, where you said, "I can't get in trouble for this. This cannot be my fault. I am not going to get in trouble for this." Your primary concern was for yourself. Your primary concern continues to be for yourself, with very little or no thought for your child. I find it especially disturbing that you found smoking marijuana to be more important than looking after the only child that it's likely you're ever going to have. So, for all these reasons, and I hope I have expressed myself adequately for the record, I'm compelled to deviate upward from the guidelines. Jhenea's then boyfriend, Albert Williams, aka Napper-Talley, tried to pick up the pieces of his life and move on. Charlotte was killed in April of 2018. Jhenea was incarcerated by the middle of that year and received her 5 to 10 year prison term in September of 2019. In December of 2019, he was pulled over by Wilkinsburg police, who were actively looking for someone who resembled him, but incorrectly pulled him over instead. Even after the initial caller alerted 911 and informed them that the officers had pulled over the wrong person, the officers continued with their stop. He chose to leave the scene instead of interacting with the officers, and as a result, he was shot 7 times, including once in the head. He died from his injuries soon after. He lost his daughter, his significant other, and his own life, all in less than 2 years, and almost all of the events that not only destroyed his life but ended it were nearly completely out of his control. Jhenea filed for an appeal on June 7, 2021. She was denied. She remains incarcerated at the SCI Cambridge Springs State Prison in Cambridge Springs, Pennsylvania, where she will remain for the rest of her sentence.